All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Commander Chris Jauernicki, the Executive Officer of HMCS St. John's, and welcome to the MFRC Military Family Resource Center and benefits brief for Opry Assurance for HMCS St. John's. So quick agenda, quick overview of what we're going to be talking about tonight. I'll turn it over after this to the Commodore and the Fleet Chief to give opening remarks to the families and all the sailors who are attending. Then we'll turn it over to the Captain of St. John's to give his remarks and a brief overview of Opry Assurance, the mission that St. John's is on, and what will be what you can expect your family members who are deployed, what they'll be doing and taking part in over the next half a year. We'll then turn the floor over to the Military Family Resource Center, and they'll cover off the services and supports that they give to deployed families. Then we'll turn it over to the mail office and what they do to make sure that we get the mail and the packages from home, all the feel-good packages. We'll cover off a couple of key points from the OPSO, and then we'll turn it over to the ship's logistics officers to cover off the operational benefits that we'll be receiving while we're deployed. And we'll turn it over to some questions at the end of the briefing there. So with that being said, I will turn the floor over, sir, to Commodore French, the commander of the Canadian Fleet Atlantic, and the Fleet Chief for some opening remarks.
Oh, there's online.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, try to aim this. Good evening to the team. And thanks for having us. Thanks for having myself and the Fleet Chief. So I'm Commodore Jake French, the Fleet Commander at Atlantic, been the Fleet Commander for the last year. Pleasure to be here tonight and to assist and to provide any sort of, I guess, words of wisdom, maybe not, for the type of deployment. But it's good to be here to see at this stage, prior to St. John's going out the door for July. I've seen a lot of these. I've seen them at every rank level I've been at. Seen him as a CO too, as a CO sitting in the chair where you are, Jeff, to try to make sure the families are well briefed in advance. It's always a great scene setter, and it's always a great way to set the stage for introductions to the right types of people that you'll if you want to ask questions to as a family, you know where to go. The MFRC has been just that pillar of support since I've been a junior officer to make sure those linkages with a deployed family overseas and the family supporting the deployed family back home. We're bridging those gaps. And, you know, we've learned a lot as a fleet, both fleets, but we've learned a lot as a Navy for how to treat the 6-month deployments, the 7-month deployments, even the 2-month and the 3-month deployments. But we've learned a lot in terms of how we bridge, how we share the information, how we support the family back home. And how we prepare the families, how we prepare the sailors and aviators, and then how we reintegrate. And we've learned a lot. And so there's a lot here, I think, that's going to be in the mission brief that's very pertinent for everybody. And so, you know, obviously ask questions throughout the evening, and then ask questions as you go. And this team, I know, is going to be super receptive to make sure that the family's main concerns and any of the main concerns that are becoming repeated questions, or even if it's just an individual question, that these questions get answered, and we'll use the entire team back home to make sure those questions are answered. The 6-month mission and then returning December 20th. That's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask anybody to leave home for 6 months. All the preparations required, whether you're single, whether you got family, whether you got a lot of kids, whether you got extended family, whatever your situation, it's a lot to ask. And we put a lot on our people and the families that support them when we ask them to do that. It's a lot. We're conscious of that, and we're trying to make obviously all the right type of arrangements, push all the right type of information, figure out all the right types of benefits, and make sure that your heads are in the right mindset for what you can get, how you can best be supported, how to make the right types of preparations, how we can aid based on what we've seen on previous deployments. What are some of the best steps you can do pre and post and then during the deployment? Deployment sees its highs and lows in terms of emotions and what goes on back home, and it's the same on the ship as it goes through the various months and everything. There's definitely ebbs and flows of information. There's highs and lows, and the same thing. And what happens back home sometimes is also something you got to deal with, whether you're at sea or you're not, or whether you're in port or you're not. And so we recognize that there's a lot of things that will change over the course of deployment. There's a lot of milestone events There's a lot of key things that are happening, and the families feel that they have to bridge the gap with the communications and fix that. So it's definitely something that we demand a lot. We ask a lot of that. We try as much as possible to provide the right types of information for you to help. It's an interesting mission, and I just wanted to, before I hand it over to the ship and the CEO, just kind of talk about what we're going to see tonight. It's a very interesting mission. It's it's a mission in the Mediterranean for the most part. It's going to be, with looking at adversaries, what they're up to, what the Russians are doing in that Eastern Mediterranean and to the Western Mediterranean. Working with NATO, working with an extremely important organization that's right now in that front, integrating into NATO, and something we do with frigates rather well, and it's something that we pride ourselves in terms of what the experience and the reputation that we bring to that. So as the CEO is briefing you as what the mission is, I think there's a bit of a mission brief here. It's something I'm extremely proud of, and I think all families, as you start to talk together and communicate, it's something that all Canadians can be proud of, and it's something that I think the families can be proud of. It's not an easy task to do, and it's something that we do extremely well when we're over in NATO. So I just encourage you to ask those questions about the mission, understand that mission, but also realize that when it's in the press and it's in the public affairs domain, and as people are talking about, something that we can spread the message. And if there's something we can do better to make sure that message is spread about how important that mission is to Canada and to Canadians, and how we're protecting Canadian interests while we're over there. Very key, very key. So I would like to see that. Obviously, I'm going to ask the hard questions about benefits because I'm not getting any of them. So no, it's just kidding. No, but it's always good to know about the benefits and allowances, and there's some stuff that kicks in. I'd encourage your patience as families, obviously, and sailors, if something doesn't kick in exactly when you thought it's going to happen. Seen this happen before. We eventually get the system in order. We fix individual by individual, and we make sure that if you are in arrears, you get what you need. So there's a lot of great benefits to going on tax-free deployment. The ship's going to talk about that. But if it doesn't come in exactly when you think, it will eventually kick in. We'll make sure it's fixed. I'm going to turn it over to Pat Mackey, who's the fleet chief. He's got a few points to make.
Hey, thanks, sir. Hey, good evening, everyone. Just kind of laughed when I came in the room. There's, whenever I stand in front of a crowd, first question I always get is about parking, and I see a sign here. It's parking, so I'm like, oh yeah, they set a trap for me. But anyway, so I joke. It's thanks for having us here. I really appreciate it. It's always great to see ships companies whenever they're gearing up for deployment, and watching you on the jetty when you take off and when you get back. It's always extremely appreciated from our part. Obviously, the Commodore and I have been involved in multiple deployments over our career, so we know exactly the feeling as you're getting ready for these types of events and going out the door, how tough it can be on families and how tough it can be depending on the situation that the ship's going through at any given time. What I will say is, actually, first question, how many people in the room here have been involved in a deployment before, or had family members? Okay, pretty much everyone. So I guess what I'm about to tell everybody in this room is relatively old information. But what I will say is, when a ship's away, just like any home that you're in, you struggle with Wi-Fi, and when you're at home, when your Bell or Eastlink's not working, it's the same thing on a ship. Every now and then those things occur. And what I will say is, those are one of the first things that I get questions about as fleet chief. MFRC will contact me and say, hey, what's going on with the ship? Haven't heard anything from them in about 2 days. And all that to say is, it's nothing to worry about. If you don't hear from a ship for a couple of days, it's typically something comms related. If there's something, I'm sure that's going to happen where they go offline intentionally, that will typically be broadcasted by the command team, and typically MFRC will also broadcast that on the ship's behalf. That way the families are aware in case you want to get a good chat in or anything before that comms blackout occurs. But I will state those are rare occasions, as for those of you who've done this before. If you've done it relatively recent, especially because the comms upgrades that we've had over the last 2 years have been fantastic for the crews. So with that said, I just want to thank the crews and the families for being a part of this adventure. It's as the Commodore said, it can be tough at times. There's ebbs and flows with every deployment, whether whether there's, you depart, you leave the harbor and you're on this high, you're going away, you're doing this big mission, but at the same time, your heartstrings are being tugged because your family's around the jetty and you know that you're going to be going for a bit. But so with that said, I know what you're going through. Really appreciate everything you're doing to support as families supporting your partners that are deploying. And of course, as questions come up, if any concerns occur throughout the deployment, Natasha and I at MFRC, we're in constant communication with ships that are away. And I know she's probably going to talk to you. She usually has a good brief here throughout all these things. So I'm sure she's going to talk to you. But rest assured, if you got questions that you're uncertain of and you're having trouble reaching your partner or your family member on the ship, Natasha will always reach out to me and I'll typically get her an answer in pretty quick order. So with that, I'll let the briefs continue on, and thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Commodore and Fleet Chief. And to everyone, I think everyone mostly knows me, but if not, I'm Jeff Anderson, the captain of the St. John's. What's mine? Sorry, I'm controlling the slides. There we go. There's the jaunty line there. I love that. Yeah, so this really is our brief for ourselves and for the family in order to make sure that we're passing on as much information as we can, and we set some clear expectations and start the discussion. Now, it looks like everybody in here is deployed at least once. I don't know. It's hard for me to poll who's online. I don't know if that's possible. We get some idea, but yeah, there's going to be many sailors on the ship who will be deploying for their first time, family members who are deploying with their member for the first time or multiple times. Lots of different scenarios and lots of different situations. Life might have changed since the last time you deployed. You got new things to think about. Keely can affirm that, as soon as I go to sea, usually something happens with plumbing. Normally I could maybe call the coxswain, but, we're at sea together now, so I've got to find someone else. But, these things will pop up. And the more that we're prepared, the more you ski the slope before you leave, the more you understand what we're going to be doing and the expectations you have for while we're deployed will make things go hopefully a little bit more smoothly. So we're going to talk about the mission a bit here and go through the rest of the slides. And Coxswain, I don't know if you want to say something now or maybe closing at the end. Okay. But if you have any questions, I think if you raise your hand, we'll see it on screen. And of course in here, then, feel free to jump in and I'll answer questions as best I can. So as the Commodore mentioned, Operation Assurance has been ongoing for some time. When the Russians invaded Crimea in 2014, that really started road zero of reassurance. But we've been involved in NATO as a founding country and been deployed with the Standing Maritime Group for a very long time. So Operation Assurance, for anybody who didn't know, is the Canadian Armed Forces' largest overseas mission right now, through which the CAF contributes to NATO deterrence and defense measures in Central and Eastern Europe, and as part of the biggest reinforcement of alliance collective defense in a generation. Right now, we're seeing about 1,900 CAF personnel deployed annually. And obviously, in addition to those land and air elements, the CAF contributes ships to standing NATO maritime groups, of which St. John's will be a participant in SNMIG 2. So St. John's will deploy to SNMIG 2 from July to December. And SNMIG 2 is NATO's multinational integrated maritime force made up of frigates or destroyers supported by a replenishment vessel. This group provides a standing maritime immediate reaction force within the Mediterranean Sea, which offers NATO an immediate operational response. So it's one of 4 standing groups. There's another standing group of frigates and destroyers, sometimes in the Baltic, as well as 2 mine countermeasure groups, of which 2 of our MCDVs are actually going to be deploying this summer as well to that. So unfortunately, this was supposed to be a 2-part slide that didn't quite work out, but you can see our house, our home pin there in Nova Scotia. St. John's is going to proceed across the Atlantic, and then our patrols will be in the Mediterranean while we support NATO. So I think everybody's kind of familiar with that, and you can check it out. It's kind of a screen cap, I think, from Google Maps. Okay, so the purpose of our group is to establish alliance presence, to demonstrate solidarity, conduct routine diplomatic visits to different countries, to support partner engagement, and provide a variety of maritime military capabilities to ongoing operations. And the last ship to deploy was Charlottetown, deployed to the same group, that time as a command ship. And right now, Montreal is there conducting Formidable Shield, not in the Mediterranean, but supporting NATO. Okay, so some key dates as we get ready for this. Obviously, it's the end of May here. We are 12 days to workups and 48 days to deployment. So it seems rather close. The first week of June, we're gonna be alongside long working days, doing all of our lectures and preparations, final preparations to get ready to get underway. And then we're sailing on Sunday, the 8th of June to go for workups and then join Cutlass Fury, which is a multinational exercise here on the coast, for the next 2 weeks. We'll be alongside, for the weekend of the 20th to the 22nd, but it will be a working port visit. So please expect that you will not be home that whole time. We're gonna do our best to give time off and, we'll see how, we'll see what we have from sea training, but I think we're in good shape, so we're gonna do our best to get some time off there. Finish workups, come back alongside on the 30th, and then we're into July. We've got a 2-week pre-deployment leave window. We're gonna grant as much leave in that time as we can. We do have some other preps we need to finish. We need to finish storing ship. We're gonna get some help from the fleet, but yeah, that window there from the 1st to the 12th, and then we're deploying on the 13th in the afternoon from Dockyard. So the Sunday deployment will hopefully make things a bit easier in terms of parking and organizing things with your friends and family and get everybody down into the Dockyard that way. And then, there's just an arrow that just kind of continues on. So there's 2 other key dates that I do want to highlight. And we're going to go over some of the benefits and everything else with the logistics officer here, and she'll explain some of the details around that. But the rest and maintenance period will be happening from the 20th of September to the 4th of October. So 2 things will be kind of happening in this window. One is that if you're going to get mission leave, it will probably be during this window, which means that if you're visiting or going home, it will occur during this window. And for anyone who's only deploying for half of the deployment, because we've got 2 force generation shocks that are going to be moving throughout the ship, this is probably the window where you change. And so we'll have quite a bit of crew changeover during that window. So that window is locked in for the rest of the maintenance period, as best as anything can be locked in when you're deployed. And then the return to Halifax, the forenoon of Saturday, the 20th of December. I recognize there's been a couple dates, but that is the one that is promulgated now. And there's a couple photos there of the ship. Thankfully, we had a great Aurora photo there, and the ship in St. John's during our BCERT photo. Okay, we moved that other slide. Perfect. Okay, so I did tell you, sorry. Okay, so we do have a lot of other points we're going to cover off, but I'm going to pause for one moment just to see if there's any questions online or from the group, and then we'll move on to the MFRC portion and then talk about those interactions.
So far, heard back from one person saying it was their first time deploying.
First time deploying. Okay, excellent. Okay, well, do feel free to ask lots of questions. Okay, sir.
When can you show port visit plan? And sort of what context are you showing the port visit? And like where you do ramp and all that stuff, is it still in classified domain or?
Yes, sir, still classified. So we asked MCC, and this is well, we can say that we can say the country. Yeah, so okay, so the ramp will be in France, and but everything else remains classified at this moment, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, thanks, sir. And MFRC.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is André Jacques, and well, my first language is not English. So if you hear new words, that can happen. I am a military navigator since for 10 years now. So now I'm also a mother of two sons who are in the reserves. So I have a perspective as a parent of Terry, and I just want to let you know that parents really love to be involved. They're really proud of their son or their daughter. So the Indigenous land acknowledgement. So we would like to acknowledge that we are in the Mi'kmaq, the ancestral territory of Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship. We are all treaty people. Yes. Okay, so what's the mission of the MFRC? So our purpose is simple, is to strengthen the well-being of all those who want to share the unique experience of military life. We are responsive to the ever-changing challenges and needs of military families.
It's a good looking group of people.
I know. This is us, and then- and you will be there. Will be you all of them. So HMR MFRC navigators are dedicated military family service professionals with a deep understanding of the unique challenge of the military lifestyle. Our navigators work closely with families, listening to their question, needs, and strength. So anytime you have a question, please reach out. We are here for you. This is what we do, and we would like to help you through this journey. So through, we help you through relocation, absences, and transition. We provide peer support and education. We also organize a lot of fun stuff, so you can meet people and create your own network. I think it's a key to have a network, because they know what you going through, and then you can call somebody. So we are here for you. So who we serve? So
Right.
each family has their own unique situation and experience, and therefore the access to services that address their individual circumstances. Circonstance in French. It's easier to say in French for me. Oh, by the way, the people online, if you speak French, si vous parlez français, je peux être disponible à la fin aussi pour répondre à vos questions en français, ça va me faire vraiment plaisir. So who we serve the cast member and anyone of significant spouse, partner, children, adult children, parents, relatives, and anyone we consider family to be. We like to joke and say even like Uncle Bob.
Mhm.
Can serve him as well. We honor the diversity of family and we serve the three elements: Air Force, Army, and Navy, regular force, reservist, medically released member, and medically released veteran. Service for family may have different eligibility requirements to support those who are most directly affected by that military lifestyle. So if you don't know if you can access services, just call us, ask a question, and we will do our best to help you.
I love that sign. Isn't that fun? That's. Oh, and then it's me. Hi, my name is Natasha. I'm also a navigator here at the MFRC. I've been here over 20 years in various roles. Started out in our children's center as an EC, then joined the military myself, and then came back to work as a navigator. I also grew up in a military family, so I can relate to both aspects of this lifestyle. All right, so this is our family connection form. We've been lucky enough to come down to the ship a couple times to DAG, and we've gotten, I'd say, probably 80% form, so we appreciate that. Yep, your crew takes orders, they follow orders, yeah. So that's really great. So this form is different than the next of kin. We do not have access to the next of kin, so this is the form that we use to connect with your families. So a common misconception we hear from families is, oh, well, I thought you had our information, because they think the next of kin or all that military paperwork is what we have access to. We don't. So this is our go-to and our link to your family members. So if you haven't filled one out, or you don't think you filled one out, definitely reach out to us and we can let you know for sure. I'd say we could come back down to the ship, but the timeline probably doesn't work very well either, so that's all right. Yeah, so the form, the first part is the members' information and the absence that you will be experiencing. The next slide, are you doing that? Oh, thank you. Oh, no, it's probably not gonna work. It's all good. Oh, you gotta take that away. Yeah, you gotta take this part away.
This one?
Take this out.
Okay, just a moment,
Yeah.
please.
Talk amongst yourself. What'd you have for supper? Okay, yep. There we go. All right. The second part is where you will fill out your contact, your primary and or secondary contact. There is not a need to have a secondary if you don't have one. So this is, as Andre mentioned, who you consider your family, who's going to be your primary contact. Is that your spouse, your partner, roommate, parent, your parent, whoever that looks like? And these are who we will contact. There is a spot there for children. If you have, any children, including your adult children, that's just for us to reference. So when we are planning some activities and social gatherings, to know what kind of age groups, as well as to provide you with resources and strategies to help support your children through the deployment. There's also a part on the form about our Facebook page. So there is a closed Facebook page that we as the MFRC will run throughout the deployment. And this is where we reference who joins the group. So it is a request to join, just like any Facebook group. We don't invite family members to join, but you request to join. And then we go back to the family connection form and see if you are actually who you say you are and have a connection to the ship. Because we often do get, you know, bots or whoever kind of thing asking to join. So we always want to make sure, for the safety and security of the families, as well as for you, that the people who are in the group should be there. All right, so how we connect with you. So again, with that family connection form, we will contact the primary contact through check-in calls as well as through emails. So the check-in calls start typically about 2 or 3 weeks after you deploy. And it's just a quick, hi, how are you? It could be quick, I guess, depending on what you want to talk about. Just to say hi, check in, see if you have any questions. If it is a first deployment, sometimes we do get quite a lot of questions and those what ifs, right? So we're here to reassure family members as well. And so the check-in calls are not mandatory. Some family members like to have a monthly call. You know, people are busy, we know this. So we offer the monthly call. We also offer a text check-in, which we've done the last couple deployments. And that seems to be very popular because, you know, everybody's texting now. Like, I know if somebody calls me, I'm not answering it. Right? Especially if it's an unknown number. No. So that's a good point though. If we do call and you don't answer, we will leave a message too, because often our phone numbers come up as D&D commander. That can be a little unsettling. So we will definitely leave a message saying that we called and that we'll try to call back again. But the text check-in, yes, seems to be very popular, and you can respond right to the text as well. And I'm the only one who gets that message. So nobody else gets your contact information or sees what you're asking or commenting on. The email gets sent out every couple of weeks as well. And that's to any emails that we get, whether that's a primary or a secondary contact. Again, sending out strategies, you know, think maybe command team messages or any updates of those types as well. That's the link to the Facebook group that I had mentioned. So there is the joining question where you name your loved one that's going to be deploying, the name and the rank, and then we cross-reference. If for some reason you are not on the family connection form, we will reach out to the member. We will reach out to the member to ask, you know, do you know this person? Is it okay if they join the group? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. You're laughing, but it's true. And we respect that too, from the member's point of view. So we'll make sure that the people, again, on there are ones that we want on there. I mentioned texting. So how you can connect with us as family members, phone and email. Our navigator card and our MFRC magnet is on the back resource table. Please take those. Those are how you can get in touch with us. We have a 24/7 line, which means that if you call that number at 2 o'clock in the morning for whatever reason, you will get a live person. You will get a tired person, but you will get a live person. So that is a great resource to have for those questions or those, you know, 2 o'clock emergencies. 24/7 line. And as Andre had mentioned, we do some programming that are mainly on a social nature because we want you to build your social network. Whether it's your first deployment or your 5th deployment or your first with kids, there'll be a range and a variety of things that we'll plan for you to get connected. We still do some virtual stuff as well because we know not everybody lives here too. Do you know, sir, is there many on IR? Any crew members on IR?
Some from the West Coast. That's actually.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so it's a thing. Yeah, for sure. And so that too, for members on IR, we can connect your families with their closest MFRC as well. Okay. All right, so Duty Padre, in the case of an emergency, you can call that 24-hour line and ask for the Duty Padre. They will need some information from you, so who your member is, who your loved one deployed is, their rank and their full name, what the deployment they're on is, as well as your name and phone number, and the general nature of the situation. So it could be a medical emergency with a family member, an immediate family member as a child. So this is a great resource to kind of have tucked away that you can call and utilize if needed. Hopefully not needed, but good to know, right? All right, deployment checklist. We have the deployment checklist on the back resource table as well. And this is, there's a few different things. Some you may think of already on your list, some you may not think of on your list to add to your list. So we'll just highlight a few. So staying connected and informed. Members, please make sure your loved one knows what deployment you're going on and what ship you're going on and where you're going. Because we often have family members calling and say, my loved one's deployed. And we're like, okay, cool. Where? Because there's, we're a high op tempo base. Yeah, and as Andre mentioned, we serve all three elements. So it's not just ship deployments that are deployed too. So it's very important that your loved one knows that. And some basic information, if you're comfortable sharing your service number, sometimes that's a way to connect as well with what's needed. So making sure that they have that too. Emergency preparedness. So you're going to be deployed over a few seasons. So, we saw the hurricane name list, right? Yeah. I don't think anybody in here.
One Karen.
Oh, there's a Karen. Okay. So get your generators, get the water. Yeah, so that emergency preparedness for, those what ifs, right? I mean, it could be a huge 1,000-page book, but those what ifs are what we need to think about and be as prepared as possible too, right? For those. Medical and health coverage. So if your loved one is under your medical or dental plan through the military, make sure they have access to the account. There is a certain, I think, form to fill out and to ensure that they do have access to the account, because this will allow them to make changes to the account if that's what you discuss, or to make claims. So we've had a family in the past say that the member signed the claim form on board, scanned it, sent it back to their spouse, but the dental office wouldn't take it because it wasn't the original signature. And the spouse wasn't on the plan. So that means that's money out of the pocket and more paperwork to have to worry about when you get home. So make sure you have that situated if that's something, again, that what if. Might not need it, but good to have. Financial and legal readiness. I mean, I know wills and power of attorney and stuff, check those out, get those updated if needed. I'm not sure how, if you don't have that, I'm not sure how soon you can get an appointment either. But sorry, sir. It's good. A week or two. Okay. So if that's something you think you need, again, it's not necessary to deploy. You don't have to have this, but again, those what if situations as well. Home and vehicle prep. So hopefully everybody has their winter tires off by now, right? But you're coming back in December, so you might not want to put those back on, right? So who's going to do that for your loved one if they don't know how, right? That's not me, because I get my husband to do mine too. So, thinking of those things, who's going to mow your lawn or home maintenance, if that's something that's going to be required while you're deployed. We refer families to the Better Business Bureau a lot to check those out. Ask around too, through the crew, does somebody use some home maintenance or a lawn service that they've used for years and really like, and it's good quality and good pricing. Share that information amongst everybody to make sure that you get that set up if you need it. If you are in the RHUs, make sure that your loved one has access to the CFHA number, as well as is on any emails. I like examples because scenarios is what we understand, right? So we've had families before saying that they've been in the RHUs and 7 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, there's somebody banging on the door saying, we're coming to change the windows. And they're like, what? Oh my gosh. So that's an added stress that your loved ones don't need during a deployment, the stranger coming to the door. So making sure that they're aware of any planned work, whatever that timeline looks like, in case that happens while you're deployed. Important documents, travel, all those things. So again, insurance policies, all those other legal documents. If you're planning to travel with children during ramp, too, if you're going international, you may need a letter from the member saying that you can take your children out of Canada. Any airline website has that information. So take a look at that. Again, it's all this prep stuff, right? Those what ifs, you don't want to be held up waiting to get to France, right? So we want that to be smooth for you. Oh, say what? No, say more. Oh. Oh, okay. Still me. I tend to go off on tangents, so she's just gonna let me roll with it. Right, so resources, family care plan. So this is a D&D document that should be updated regularly. I don't think it usually is, to be honest with you, but something to keep in mind. We do have copies on the resource table as well on that, so grab those, take a look in case you need to fill one of those out or update. Emergency family assistance plan. There's also paperwork back there for that through Canadian Forces Morale Welfare Services. Just another resource for you. You may need it, you may not, but it's good to have the information in case, those what ifs again. Occasional and respite childcare is offered through all the military lifestyle challenges, absence, relocation, and transition. Alicia is here at the table with the kiddos, who is our occasional and respite childcare coordinator. So she can answer any of your questions and kind of give you a little bit of a breakdown of what the program looks like and what's available for you during this time. Morale Mail, Fleet Mail Office will speak a little bit more about that, but we are a location that you can drop off your packages here at the Halifax site or in Shearwater. If you are not in the area, those online possibly, you can go to your closest MFRC and drop off mail as well. I would just check with them what their mail process is and their hours of operation before you head out. Deployment workshops and activities, we actually have a preparing for deployment workshop coming up that will share the information towards the end of the slides for parents or adults and children. But anytime during this prep stuff, if you have any questions, definitely reach out and we'll, we can do one-on-one meetings, just to make sure that you're prepared as best as possible for this. Deploy together, we have a kids activity guide that is on the back table as well. So more the ages about 3 to 9. So different activities in there to stay connected, work through those feelings, because we know deployments bring all the feelings over and over again. And sometimes when you're little kiddos or even adults, you don't know how to express those feelings or what's going on, right? So this book helps them work through that as well. Is this filming? Oh, you're so good. She's like, yeah, sure, you go ahead. I'm a bit of a talker. Nobody figured that out. All right, comms plan. So again, back at the resource table. So if you take anything away tonight, go to the resource table before you leave. Everything is on there. And there's a communication plan breakdown, things to think about, questions to answer. There's also a communication plan for if you have children too. So there's a deployment one, you just have a spouse or a parent, but if you have kiddos, there's 2 there that you can use. And then it has the children involved and makes them feel a little bit more as part of it and having a little bit more control over things they don't have control of, like you being deployed. So rumors, there's going to be rumors, there's going to be social media. That's the world we live in, unfortunately. But as the fleet chief said, if you hear rumors and you can't get hold of your loved one, or you're watching the news and you're not sure about something, reach out to us and we'll reach out to make sure that you get the right information. And that's where we'll share those through the email as well as the closed Facebook group too, to make sure that everybody knows the right information. As much information as we can know, because sometimes there will be times that we'll just get the basic general stuff until it's safe to be able to give more information. And that would come from the command team. Planning for departure. So what's departure going to look like? I do like that it's a Sunday, that's parking, especially down there, right? So that's really great. And no school and hopefully no work. So hopefully a good crowd to come. So what does that look like for you? Depending on your loved one's day and schedule, they may have to be on board earlier too. So you might be dropping off at 7 o'clock because they got to get things ready to depart in the afternoon. So that might be your goodbye time or your see you later. We don't say goodbye, we say see you later. If you have kiddos, maybe that's what you want to do that the night before and the member goes on board that night. So you kind of start your time then. It's very individualized, very much whatever works best for you as a family. Setting expectations for communication. So how often will you communicate? That's really up to you too. I think connectivity is very consistent. Keep fingers crossed throughout a deployment now. It's pretty much daily, depending on what your schedule looks like. But think about time zones. Think about what your schedule looks like, what your loved one's schedule looks like. Are they doing a 12-hour shift and then they got to sleep? What's that? how's that gonna work, right? We always say, if you send a text, I love you, have a good day, people are gonna get that, and that's your connection for that time until, maybe you're in port and they're off doing a tour and be able to call you or FaceTime too. So talk about these things and figure out what's gonna work best for you. That's gonna have to be flexible because nothing is ever set in stone during a deployment. So you do want to make sure that you have kind of those extra plans too and flexibility to change up the communication plan when needed. Blackouts and technology issues, they're going to happen. As much as we don't want them to happen, they will happen. And we're lucky enough to have a good relationship with the command team that we will know in advance if possible. Yes. You should be going yes. Yeah, right?
When possible.
When possible, that's why I said, yeah, should is always a fun word too, isn't it? When possible, we will know. But again, if there's those rumors, if you hear, hey, you know what, they're gonna be, comms is going out for a week. Well, maybe we haven't heard anything yet, but then we'll reach out to the command team. If they can't reach out to us, that's where the fleet chief comes in again, who will know this information for you. And we'll pass that along. And then think, what do you want to share or not share? So what do you want to know? What don't you want to know? So does your loved one want to know that you had a really bad day at work or the kiddos are a little unsettled? Or do you want to know that they had a rough day at work? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to know? We always recommend, the first things you should say, I love you, I miss you, I hope you're safe, I hope you're okay. Because then that's the important stuff that gets out in case, the call drops or whatever that looks like too. So some conversations to have, definitely before you head out. Is this still me? No, this is you. I need a drink now.
I'll give you a break.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Military Family ID, MFID. So the Military Family ID is required only if a dependent needs to go through the dockyard gates to pick up or drop off family members at the ship. It's not required to access MFRC sites or program, and it's not mandatory for deployment or for attending departure and homecoming ceremonies. Can also give you access to DND Family Days though. This weekend, this is something that we have to deal with. There's people on deployment and how they can access the dockyard. MFID can be a really good cards to have. So the MFID is a base commander directive, not an MFRC requirement, but MFRC is where you go to get one. Let's go over what you need to do. So first thing first, to apply, the CAF member must be present with their dependents. And the document that you need is the CAF identification card, a copy of the MPRR. It can be print or digital to verify dependents. Complete MFID application form is available at MFRC. And when I'm talking MFRC is the one over here in Halifax, and we have another one in Shiwara. So we can have MFID done at both sites. So independent needs 2 pieces of IDs, including one with a photo. So why do both CAF member and dependent needs to be present? It's for security reason. Both must provide a digital signature in person. This is required to process the cards. If you lost or you need to replace MFID, so if MFID is lost, the CAF member must go through their union security officer to request a replacement. If it's lost during a deployment, unfortunately, you will have to wait till the member is back home to replace it. So just to let you know, MFRC is open here 7 to 5, and Shearwater it's open from 8 to 4. Shearwater will be closed before lunch hour from 11:30 to 12:30. So you can go in the morning or the afternoon.
Sorry, Andre, is there any questions?
We can see a couple of chats.
Anything on there,
It's
Jenna?
mostly just me adding information. We did have a comment about the RHUs that you were discussing. So I guess like the policy has changed a little bit. So now the member has to fill out a form from CFHA so they can deal with RHUs work with the person named by the member while they're away. And there's a new handbook out. of
Oh, okay.
RHUs.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just me kind of
Okay.
adding some info.
Yep.
And it's not on the slide, but I will also add, maybe it's a good time to if you don't have the CF1 cards to apply for it, because it gives you You can go to Maples if you need for medical appointment and stuff like that. So that can be another things to go through. So now I would like to hand over to my colleague Mara. I will explain the services offered by the incredible mental health and wellbeing team.
Hello, I'm Mara Toombs from the Mental Health and Wellbeing team. So I'm one of the social workers on the Mental Health and Wellbeing team. We have an excellent array of social workers available to support your families through this experience and throughout the military life. So I have listed up here our team. We have several family wellbeing counselors. That's the job that I have. Myself and Anne Sampson Roach are our family wellbeing counselors. And we also have Michael Best, who's our family liaison counselor. So he also does work with families in all kinds of situations, but specifically if there's an ill or injured member is really something that he works with directly a lot through the transition center. And Christine Van Kooten is our intake coordinator. If you call to reach out to the mental health and wellbeing team, she's the most likely first person that you would be in touch with because she does her intake and connects families with the right services, but sometimes there's other people covering intake. And then we have Melissa Clark on our team. So she's a military family navigator who specializes in families where there's a special needs family member or there's extra needs. So if there's something you're navigating in terms of a family member who has a physical or mental health disability or anything extra that they're dealing with, she has a lot of information. It's very helpful. And then we now, for the last couple of years, have Gabrielle Lambert working with us as a Francophone family counselor. So we have French language counseling services available. So I'm going to tell you more about specifically what we offer on the next slide. So the mental health and wellbeing team is here to support your family members with short-term counseling. This is a big part of what we're offering on day-to-day is people reaching out to talk about their experiences around the military lifestyle and stressors that they're experiencing or adjusting to a deployment or planning for a deployment and thinking about how they're going to take care of their well-being. So this could be anyone in your family, specifically over the age of 16. If you have a family member under the age of 16 who's struggling and needs some support and you're concerned that you want them to have some counseling, still call us. But that would be a situation where we would be helping navigate to child-specific services that are available in the community and to advocate for your family to access some care. But in terms of one-on-one counseling or couples counseling or family counseling, those services are available to people over the age of 16. Sometimes we work with a parent and a child, actually. So if you had someone under the age of 16 and it's about your parent relationship with them, you could come in and do family counseling as well. So counseling is what we offer is short-term counseling, which is 1 to 8 sessions, and it's free of charge. And we're very responsive. We don't have a wait list. Most of the time we can get people in within a week or two. So if something's, if you're like, oh goodness, we have a little bit more time before this deployment starts and we'd like to get in one session to talk to someone on a one-off for a plan around how we're going to relate to this situation, there still might be time. I don't know when you guys leave, but you should reach out to us. We might be able to make something happen quickly. So we do crisis intervention. This is to say we are not there on the 24-hour line. We are not an emergency service in that sense, but there's many, many kinds of family crises that we do support around. So if you call us and you get through to one of us, we are going to do as much wraparound support as we can around what's going on in a family. And there's lots of services that we offer that might be relevant. So one thing I want to really note is that I mentioned that we're free, but I think the confidential piece is really, really important. There's still a lot of people who think that we're going to report to chain of command or it's going to reflect badly on them if someone, it's going to create some kind of hiccup in your military career. Whatever is going on with you, if you reach out to us, we are social workers. It's held within a bubble of confidentiality. We do not report to chain of command. We report to the College of Social Workers just to promise that we will keep our clients' experiences confidential and the experiences of military families confidential. So it's extremely important to our team. So please do not hesitate to tell us what is going on in your lives if we can be of assistance. So we offer short-term accommodations is one really important part for people's experiences around deployment. If your family member is at home and you're away and there is a hurricane, there is a flood, they have something unfortunate happen in the family and they have a family member come to town to support, or many other kinds of situations where it would be really helpful to have somewhere to stay other than your house. We have short-term accommodations. That means we have 6 apartments
former military housing style apartments. You'd be familiar with what those kind of look like. And they have several bedrooms. Some of them are pet friendly. They're very homey. They have kitchenettes. They're inexpensive, and we can activate them really quickly. You could call on a Friday night and the after hours people could get someone in there that night, unless we're full. But we keep it low cost and they're short term. So this is not a housing solution. If your family member's lease is up and they don't have a place to stay, that is more of a housing question. But if there's a crisis where someone needs somewhere to stay for 1, 2, or like up to maybe 14 nights, then do reach out to us and we can often put people up. We have financial resources. So if the crisis that comes up in your family looks like the fridge died and suddenly all of the produce is spoiled and it's going to make it really hard to pay rent this month, or whatever kinds of like short-term crisis where a gift card would make a difference, then reach out to us and we can often get some financial support in place really quickly. And we can also connect with CISIP if it's more of a long-term financial situation and help people get back on their feet in terms of their financial plan. Also, we have a community pantry. So this is a really important financial resource, really, at this point in time. We haven't had this in the past, but at this time, we have a community pantry in Halifax and in Shearwater. We stock that pantry. We also take donations. So if this is something that would be helpful for your family or something that you would want to contribute to, it's anonymous. You can drop off food here or you can pick up food, same at Shearwater. You don't need to even tell anyone that you're here to use the pantry. As you walk through the front doors of the Halifax MFRC, there are dots on the floor that show you where to go to the back of the building to use the pantry. And in Shearwater, there's also a map that you can use to get there without even telling anyone using it. You don't need to check in. Yes?
Sorry, just to clarify.
Yes.
In order to drop off food, we ask that people check in at the front office.
Yes,
just
thank
to
you.
make sure that food is safe.
Sorry, to clarify, you can identify yourself at the front office in order to drop off food. Yes, and we have a Francophone counselor. So I mentioned that. This is very important. I would really appreciate it actually if you are connected to Francophone members who might not be aware of this, spread the word about this. This is a service a lot of people didn't know we had because we didn't. And so they might have gotten the idea that we don't have this service. So spread the word that we do have French language counseling. And so our military family navigator, I'm just going to say a little bit more about what she does in terms of supporting families with needs. A lot of military families, obviously, between various situations like moving from place to place, you could be on a wait list to try to get a kid a special kind of support that they need. And then you move and you're back at the bottom of the wait list somewhere else. Or you could have had a family support network that was helping you with the situation, and then that's not available at this time. She really is very resourceful, Melissa, in helping people find a new way to get those needs met and to navigate systems. And then we have emergency family care assistance. So this is different than respite childcare services where you can drop off your kid at certain set times. Emergency family care assistance is in place if there was a crisis in your family situation where you need to put childcare or elder care in place right away for, let's say, 24 hours. Let's say a family member who is the main caregiver in the household is injured and goes to the hospital. We can be contacted to put in place licensed childcare or elder care in the house until, let's say, your family care plan can kick in. Like we get stories, mom's coming from New Brunswick to help, but it's going to take her 12 hours to get here. And we have a real situation. We might be able to get someone into the house to provide support during that time. So those are the main things. But what I really want to encourage you to do is, if you have any questions, come talk to me afterwards. Or if you are online and you have any questions and you would like to talk to one of us, call the MFRC and ask to speak to the mental health and well-being team, and we can talk about how we can support you. From 1 session to 8 sessions of counseling, or financial support, or accommodations, or navigating other resources in the community for well-being. Okay. Yeah, I think that's me. Yes, thanks. All right. Thanks. Any questions here before I step away? I'll be at the back if you have more questions. Don't want to trip myself over. All right, thank you, Mara. All right, couple of upcoming programs. I had mentioned the Preparing for Deployment and Supporting Kids Through Deployment. That is an in-person here at the Halifax site on a Saturday from 9 to 12. So the first part will be about with the adults or adult caregivers, and then the second portion will be the parents or adult caregivers and their kiddos learning some strategies and different resources to help support through the deployment. We have just come up with a workshop, Military 101 Kids Edition, that Jen and I, and our youth services coordinator Hannah will be doing. Ages 8 to 12, just to figure out what the CAF is about. What does mom or dad or grandpa's uniform mean? What do all those bars and symbols mean on their uniform? Why are we out and somebody's saluting my parent? So we're just talking about, you know, kind of the basics of what the military lifestyle in the CAF is. So something that's on a Tuesday evening at our youth center in Shearwater. So this is all available on our website as well, if you were interested in that. And then this is how you can get in touch with us. Again, our website, that is the deployment email. So during your deployment, that is the best email to use for any questions related to your experience. All navigators have access to that email. Andre and I are your liaisons for this deployment with the command team. So definitely ask the questions, reach out. Don't hold anything in. We want to know, we want some feedback. We want to make sure that you're supported in the best way that is for you. And then, of course, our 24-hour line and in person, we love to see people in person. Yeah. So that's our MFRC portion. We're still good online, just making sure. All right. And now we will have the Fleet Mail Office join us to talk about mail. Did you want me to do the slide or do you want to do it?
No, I can do that. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Corporal Porter from the Fleet Mail Office, and tonight I'll be giving the briefing on sending morale mail to deployed members on a ship. Also with me tonight is Master Corporal Kazada. He'll answer any questions I can't, which is probably most of them. All right, so just a little bit about us and our operation. We provide postal services to CFB Halifax and Shearwater and all other outlying facilities under them. In addition, we provide morale mail support for ships of the Atlantic Fleet when they're deployed on operations. And during the average 6-month deployment for a frigate, we'll send about 3,600 kilograms of mail. And like I'm here tonight, we provide support to the MFRC and deployed personnel's families by providing information on how to send morale mail. So if after tonight you have any questions that I couldn't answer, or maybe the Government of Canada Right to the Troops website, it's a great resource. It'll have everything that I talk about tonight, as well as probably a bit more. So if you have friends or family who want to send a parcel from outside of Nova Scotia, they can drop it off at any one of these bases. They all have a military post office and MFRC that'll gladly take your parcel free of charge. And you've probably heard a lot of rumors about Canada Post. They're not on 100% strike right now. They're just not doing overtime, so mail is still flowing that way. But if the strike were to come into a full effect, you could use a courier service like Purelator or FedEx. They deliver to the post office all the time.
So Corporal, if it gets to the MFRC or to the Fleet Mail Office, regardless of Canada Post, you'll be able to get it to the ship, is that right?
That's right, sir. They aren't affected by the strike.
Could you just say it again on the microphone?
Oh. So with Canada Post is to go on a full strike, as long as you can get your parcel to the MFRC or the FMO, it won't affect your morale mail getting to the member. I should note at the bottom, if your friend or family member isn't located anywhere near one of these locations, they would have to pay for the postage to get it to the FMO. With the exception during the holiday period from November to January, it's Canada Post has a promotion right to the troops. It's free morale mail. All right, sizing your parcel. So the maximum accepted length is up to 1 meter, and the length plus the girth of your parcel cannot exceed 2 meters. So the girth is the width and the height added together, multiplied by 2. So if the width of your item is 20 centimeters and the height is 15, 20 plus 15, 35, times 2 is 70. You'd be good to go. Now, the maximum weight is 20 kilograms per parcel, but I don't recommend sending something that heavy because that's also the maximum weight for our morale mail bags. Just to give you a good reference point for size, I think a mailbox or a diaper box is ideal, but not a Costco diaper box. Oh.
Yeah.
Are there any questions on sizing your parcel? Non-mailable matter. All right, so this is an up-to-date list on what you cannot send through Morale Mail. This comes from Canada Post and the Canadian Armed Forces. I'm not gonna beat you over the head with it. I think it's all pretty common sense, but the ones highlighted are the ones we see the most often. Compressed gas like aerosol cans, shaving cream, air fresheners, alcohol, people have tried to send that. Lithium batteries. Batteries are fine so long as they're in an enclosed case and can't be removed. So like a rechargeable USB fan would be fine, but if you're just trying to send A cell, D cell batteries, that's a no-go. Tobacco products are popular. We see those a lot. Cigarettes, cigars, cigarillos, chewing tobacco, loose tobacco, e-cigarettes. You can't send that.
What about Nerf guns?
No Nerf guns.
Before, you're thinking it. Yeah. But have them now when you're a kid. Yeah. Wait.
One thing a lot of people like to send is maple syrup to deployed members. You can send maple syrup. We just ask that you pack it very well so that in the case that it did break open, it doesn't ruin everybody else's mail. Because it's not just your parcel going in the bag, it's your parcel and a bunch of other parcels, so you don't want to ruin everybody's day.
Which pasta sauce seems to be popular.
That's very popular, yes. And last year we had somebody send 8 2-liter bottles of Mott's Clamato Caesar, like the non-alcoholics. Yeah. No, you're allowed to send that, but we just had to they had to come in and repackage it properly because it was just loose in the box. Are there any questions on non-mailable matter? Somebody tried it in the past, sir.
And that's why we always check the mail when you bring it in.
So when you bring in your parcel to any military post office or MFRC, if you haven't already, they'll have 2 forms for you to fill out. The first one is the Morale Mail template. It's basically like filling out a standard letter you'd send at Christmas time. You'll have the return address or the sender's address in the top left. But we do ask that you put your phone number so that if we have a question about the parcel, we have an easy way to get in touch with you. And then in the center, you'll have the member's information or who you're sending it to, rank, grade, rank, name, initials, the last 3. You don't need the name of the operation, but the name of the ship. And then the address for the base, which is PO Box 99,000, Station Forces, Halifax, Nova Scotia, Bravo 3 Kilo, 5 X-ray 5. And then to the bottom of that, to the left, we want a detailed list of the contents in the box. Don't be generic. Don't say clothes, say 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of underwear. Don't just say snacks, say Sour Patch Kids, fruit by the foot, Dunkaroos. And then a signature in the bottom left under that as well. And the next form they will have you fill out will be the CP72 customs form. In the top left, similar information to the Morale Mail template, the sender's information and the receiver's information. There are a few extra things you have to check though. The first will be if the package can't be delivered to the member, do you want it abandoned in country, or would you like it returned at sender's expense? So if it's can't be delivered, it would be abandoned. And sometimes they might disperse it amongst the other members of the ship if there's nothing too personal in it. But if you choose to have it returned at sender's expense, it will come back to Toronto, and then the person who sent it would have to pay postage from Toronto to the return address. And below that, the reason for export, it's always gift with Morale Mail. And under that, again, a specific list of what's inside. Don't be generic. And then to the left, to the right of that, declared value, just put no commercial value, as there's no need to declare how much it's worth for Morale Mail. And very important at the bottom, you need to sign it and date it. A lot of people miss that step.
Question.
Yes.
So somebody here would be sending from the United States. So would they need to do anything different on the mailing forms? Good question. Yeah. Right.
Would you like to handle this one?
You're waiting.
I'll say in my experience, most parcels coming from the States usually have a customs form on them, and we can't accept that. And we might just copy it ourselves onto the CP72. The issue with ordering from the States, maybe not so much with getting something from a family member, is that it usually will have customs owing. And we can't send a parcel that owes customs unless you can guarantee someone can come in and pay those customs for you.
That's.
Yeah.
That again.
Oh, okay. Are there any more questions on the customs form?
We have an example on the table back there too, so take a picture. Just to refresh your memory or as a guideline.
All right, so parcels, we have a very nice X-ray machine at the post office. Every parcel is scanned individually, so you can't hide anything. Don't try to. Although it is fun when people do try and hide stuff, they can get pretty creative. And this is all in compliance with Canada Post, Transport Canada, and CAF rules and regulations. And that used to be true. We used to send parcels to MDC every Friday. But lately it's been more hit or miss because, like, for example, the Ville de Quebec is in a more, I guess, for lack of a better term, sketchy port. So MDC is only sending high priority requests, and Morale Mail, it's pretty low priority. Want to add anything to that? All right, we recommend that members do not mail anything with significant monetary value as morale mail at the end of the day. It's not a guaranteed service. Things do once in a while go missing, whether that's in the mail system or when it's passing through customs. Sometimes there's sticky fingers. So don't send gaming systems, laptops, jewelry, anything like that. A lot of people still try and send military kit. Don't do that. Don't try and send your Gerber, your uniform that you forgot. No carbonated drinks or anything that could leak or shatter. And it's important to understand that while something may be legal here in Canada, it might not be legal in the country that you're visiting. Yes,
You mentioned a credit card. Not to send credit.
don't send credit
Don't
cards.
send credit. And yes, that's tried to happen before. My loved one forgot their credit card. Yo. You're not gonna get. So, yeah.
This is our contact information. And if you have any remaining questions, I'll take them now. If not, we're at the dockyard from 7 to 1500 every day, Monday to Friday.
And I will say too, we call the fleet mail office all the time for questions, just, processes change too, and rules change and day to day sometimes, right? So we always double check if we get a question from families. We'll call to go to the source and figure it out.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I'll also just mention, the military family ID that Andre had mentioned earlier does not give you access to the dockyard to go to the fleet mail office. That's just to go drop off your loved one to the ship or pick them up. That doesn't give them access to wander either. Mhm. All right, yeah. I believe benefits, unless there was anything in command team to go, no? Rolling, oh my goodness, look at the time.
Yeah.
What is that? Here for a good time, not a long time, kind of thing?
Got one more slide here. It looks like in between that before paying benefits.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not gonna take an actual break here, but if you need to get up and, grab a water or there's some snickety snacks over there, go ahead. We're gonna come back to this slide. We'll do the pay and benefits. And then, I think we'll come back to this one, because there's a lot of, things that I do want to cover here that obviously have kind of come up a bit throughout the brief in terms of connectivity and stuff. So, we will revisit this one, but I'll move on to the logistics officer to talk about pay and benefits.
All right, good evening, everyone. I don't want to say we saved the best for last, but here we are. Okay. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Lieutenant Sarah Jensen. I'm the ship's logistics officer. So firstly, with every military presentation, we have the references. For most of you, this doesn't mean anything, but to any of our sailors, please refer to these or come to the ship's office or pay office, and we will be happy to help you out. All right, so for this, there's a lot of information, so please bear with me. First, we'll go through the pay allowances, which includes OPS FSP, hardship allowance bonus, and risk allowance, as well as tax-free. Next, we'll go through some of the leave travel entitlements. We'll move into optional predetermined pay, and then some of the other entitlements that you can take advantage of to help you out while you're away, which include custodial fees, personal motor vehicle storage, AMDA. And then lastly, we'll just briefly touch on the NATO Vigilance Medal. Okay, so moving into pay allowances. So the first one is called Foreign Service Premium, which is usually referred to as Ops FSP on ship. So the intent behind this one is it's an allowance payable to a member in recognition of service on operations and to cover expenses not specifically covered by any other allowance or benefits. So this one is based on a point system. So essentially you get 1 point per calendar month. If you do less than a month and you do only up to 10 days, that will get you another point. So this one you can see here, there's a lot of different levels. So if you're on your first deployment, you can expect to be on level 1A. If you're Chief Farouz, you might expect to be a little bit further down the list. So the ship's office will do an audit for you and determine whether or not or where you will fall on this. So when you're signing for your allowances, they will already have looked at your MPRR and seen how many times you deployed, how many months you spent deployed, and will determine where you fall. So the next is the hardship allowance. Commonly people call this hazard allowance, but it's hardship. So the intent here is to compensate for living conditions existing on a specific post. So this one is determined by a committee in Ottawa that sits every 6 months. So what they determine or what they use to determine this is different factors considering conditions at work, conditions while on duty, the available health support services, your communications with home, and any deployment stress that could contribute to the level of deployment or to the stress level. So as you can see, I have at the bottom, right now, the current level is at 2. Unfortunately, this level expires at the end of the week. So the next rate level is going to be promulgated in mid-July, which should line up right for when we deploy. We expect it to be similar. But so for right now, if levels stay the same, the entire ship's company would see $470 per month. So the next is hardship allowance bonus. So this one, while it's related to hardship, it's more so to compensate for anyone that's doing repeated deployments. So this one is also on a points basis. So similar to Ops FSP, it should progress at the same rate as your Ops FSP. And it's a percentage of the monthly AJ rate. So you can see the table here. So for example, if you've deployed for 19 months of your life so far, you get an extra 40% of the hardship rate. The next is risk allowance. So this one's pretty straightforward, but it's to compensate for the risks associated with a specific op. So this rate is also determined by the same committee in Ottawa. So it's reviewed every 6 months. This one takes into account residual risk potentially faced in the mission area, force protection measures implemented, military, civil health, and environmental risks. So as you can see here, the current rate is set to level 1, but again, this one expires at the end of the week. We should have a new rate around the time that we start our deployment. So right now, the rate is $235, which would apply to the whole ship's company. The next is tax relief, which is more commonly known as tax-free. So essentially what this is all deployed members on any CJOC named operation outside of Canada are entitled to tax relief on pay and taxable allowances. This is a note for anyone in the ship's company. When you're going to be looking at your pay stub, you're going to notice that superannuation, CPP, and EI are still deducted from your pay. Tax-free starts the day that the ship departs from Canada. All right, so myself and the ship's office, or Petty Officer Thibault, we did up some estimates so we can kind of give you a rough idea of what this all shakes out to. So the one on the left, so that's for example in S1, it's their first deployment. They do not get CFHD. So all in all, you can see that the bottom line that they'd be taking home extra each month would be just over $3,000. On the right, we use somebody a little bit more senior who has a few deployments under their belt. And so they would see a little bit more. So the vast majority of the ship is going to be somewhere between those two numbers. Obviously, the CO and XO are going to make a little bit more, but most people are going to be between those two numbers. I'm just going to pause here for any questions on any pay allowances. Sir?
Just so that everybody else can hear. So I think one thing that is important to note is that when the risk and hazards start, our CPay stops. So it's not all bonus. There is a bit of a 1-for-1 there because those are already similar for a lot of the crew. And also recognize that when the benefits start, The senior pay writer is gonna do their very best to try and make sure that it's smooth, but there will invariably be some hiccups as we start new allowances and end allowances. So your beginning deployment and end deployment pays will probably be a little odd. At the very least, there's gonna be lots of new line items. And I just wanted to double check pay, each one of these items that you've been discussing, that's the monthly rate, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So this is the monthly rate. And then, yeah, the tax is based on like just the examples of the pay scale. Anyway. So anyone with any questions beyond this, this is for the ship's office. So any members see the ship's office for help with this stuff? Yes, sir.
Are you gonna pay HARA's full with the expected rate, or do you wait until the end of deployment, pay the rate that was sort of decided by the committee? So is HARA gonna be paid out of?
So sir, we are expecting the rate for mid-July. That's what we were told in our KLE last week from CJOC. So as soon as that we have the rate, we will start paying it out at that rate. So it might result because they said mid-July, people probably won't see it until at least like their mid-August to late August pay. But we will pay it out through the deployment as long as we have a rate.
So I'll say hasn't changed much.
Exactly, sir. Yeah.
Can you say white lines, just for people, you said it, but they may be here.
Oh, sure. So the Commodore had asked on whether or not we would pay out throughout the deployment or wait until the end of the deployment to pay out the HA and RA if we didn't have a rate. And essentially, once we have the rate, we will start paying it out. All right, so next we're gonna just move on to some of the leave travel entitlements. So the three big ones here is special leave travel assistance, home leave travel assistance, and third location home leave travel assistance. So the first is special leave travel assistance. The reason we did this first is because this happens either before or after the deployment. So this is applicable to members who do not live within 400 kilometers of their primary next of kin. So this primarily applies to members that are single and they don't have dependents in the home. This can be used in Canada or the US, and it can be used both pre and post deployment. It's administered in the same way as normal LTA. So what that means is that if you're taking this, you book the flight yourself and you do a claim after. The member must be on special leave. So if you're using PDL, that is the time to use this, and it cannot be done in reverse. So you couldn't fly your family in to see you. So this one, most people aren't entitled. As I mentioned, it's mostly applying to single members who don't have dependents. If you do have any questions on this, or you think that it applies to you and you want to use it, stop in to see the pay office. Yes, sir.
So someone who's out of this would also get their annual notification.
Yes, sir. So this has it does have a slight impact with LTA, so you can't use LTA within 3 months of using this. So you could use this at the end of the deployment and then still use an LTA in the fiscal year after. And I don't know, you might have just enough time to have used an LTA already this fiscal. But as long as it's outside 3 months.
Close, yes.
Yeah.
Not even April.
Exactly. All right, so the next is home leave travel assistance, commonly known as HLTA. So this one applies to a member who is deployed for an expected period of over 60 days. So this is to provide transportation assistance to permit the member of an opportunity to reunite with their next of kin when granted mission leave. This cannot be taken in the first or last 30 calendar days of the deployment. And during this time, your operational allowances continue as long as you're not gone for more than 25 days. So this is broken into 2 different routes that you can take your HLTA. So the first is true HLTA, which means you're coming home. So generally that's back to Halifax, but if they're from Esquimalt, that might be there and it might be their last place of duty. Let's say they're from Ottawa and they're a mission specialist. The second way is third location HLTA. So this is where your spouse or a family member would come meet you in somewhere else. I almost said Europe, might be Europe. But they meet you somewhere else and you have a certain threshold. Right now, we're still promulgating the rates for the ports that we're going to be using HLTA. But usually it's between like $1,500 to $2,000 to fly firstly yourself, but then you can use it to fly your next of kin.
Ma'am, could you mention how HLTA would be, how it's organized or determined and how it can be very last minute? You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
You know, you're trying to figure out how to say it nicely? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll do this slide and then we'll kind of get through that. So this is a policy that's changed recently, and I think it's changed for the better. So formerly, you could only take your next of kin, your primary next of kin, which is your spouse, and if you didn't have a spouse, it was the next person on the list, so a child or a parent. This has actually changed now, so it can be any of the family members listed there. So important note at the bottom, your boyfriend or your girlfriend do not qualify for this unless they are common law. So with this, basically, we will determine that a few different chalks for which people will be able to proceed on HLTA. So right now, we're kind of determining what those chalks are going to look like. Most of them are going to be over ramp. Just the way that it's working now with our crew, we don't have enough people to be able to offset to allow people to go, or everybody to go outside of ramp. So it is also going to be limited to who can go. So for example, there are probably lots of people listening right now that are only doing half the deployment. I'm just going to dampen your expectations now because you're there for the purpose of force generation and training. It's not expected that you're going to get the flight benefit. You will still get the leave. You'll just get the leave once you return back to Canada. I don't think I really answered your question.
We often get the question, no, sorry. We often get the question, oh, I haven't heard about HLTA yet. And we at the MFRC don't have anything to do with the process. Thank goodness, because it sounds very confusing. And so we always say that it comes from the member to check with the member. And of course, a lot of times the member is, well, now we're waiting to hear. And unfortunately, we don't dampen, but we do kind of just let families know that it could be very last minute and there could be changes because, I mean, nothing is guaranteed, unfortunately. But so just that, but we can always put out the questions to the command team as well when we get them. But just to kind of start that now that we don't have any information coming to us at all about HLTA.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so right now, as I mentioned, we are looking at when we can have these talks and what ports are going to work for this, but we still have a lot on the go to get out the door. So once we have that information, we will pass it out to the ship's company and then they will pass it out to their families so that you can all plan, of course, because there's a whole other aspect here of leave and Captain wants to talk.
Yeah. Sorry, I just do think though that, you know, knowing when the ramp dates are, we're gonna pass that information, but start to think early of whether you want to try and go home or you want to bring someone out. And we're gonna get that information early on. And that way we can start to lock in as much as we can as we go forward and give you as much time to plan, make the preparations, book flights, book accommodations and make all of that work. And as we go through that, so that'll be kind of one of the first questions is, do you want leave? And do you plan to leave the theater or do you plan to bring someone to a third location? And so if you can start to think about those things, that'll help us figure out what the scheme of this will look like as we go through that.
Thank you, sir. I know that was quick and dirty on HLTA. Did anybody have any questions? All right, for this, myself, the ship's office and the pay office are all available to anyone on ship for more questions. Oops. Okay, so the next part of the presentation, all of these will be, questions should be directed to the pay office. This is where you'll actually go to claim these. So the first one is custodial fees. So what this is to reimburse costs associated with maintaining a residence while deployed outside Canada. For a member who has no dependents, is part of a service couple, and both are absent due to service reasons, or is a single parent, and their dependents are under 18 years of age and do not reside in the principal residence during the member's absence. Sorry, I think I just had an extra note. Okay, so the max on this one is up to $275, and it's actual and reasonable expenses. So what that means is you have to provide a receipt. So up to $275 per month. But again, this is for people that essentially are leaving an empty home. So if you have a spouse at home, this will not apply to you. So the next is personal motor vehicle storage. So for this one, the intent is to reimburse a member costs associated with the storage of a private motor vehicle and related expenses. So this includes the storage of one vehicle at public expense in commercial storage facilities at actual and reasonable cost supported by receipts. So this one, there's no monthly maximum, but it's actual and reasonable costs. If you find yourself in a position that there's no commercial storage available or it's not practical, non-commercial storage can be authorized, but it's up to a max of $30 a month. If you bring your vehicle out of commercial storage and there is repairs that need to be done or an oil change or something to get it back up to roadworthiness, you can spend up to $200 to get it back to roadworthiness. So for this, if you're interested in using this, please speak to the pay office because that's where you'll do your claims and these will be paid out through the deployment. So the next is called Assistance for Military Duty Absence. So this replaced the Family Care Assistance Plan. So this is a newer policy to us that unfortunately we're not super familiar with, but we're learning. So basically with this one, the intent is to provide monetary assistance for members to offset some of the additional expenses related to the care of their dependents as a result of being absent from their home for service reasons. So the bottom line here is this is for additional expenses because the member is away. So the amount here would be the difference between all amounts paid for expenses related to dependent care when the member was absent and the amount normally paid by the member had they not been absent. So this one, we thought up a few scenarios on when you might be able to actually claim this. So a few would be, for example, if you had a single parent and they had to take their child to, let's say, a grandparent, and there was some expenses there. Or for example, if your spouse normally works evenings and normally the military member was there to care for the children in the evenings and now you had to pay somebody. This could even be something like you had to have later pickups at daycare and there was an extra fee associated with that because one parent is no longer there to be able to assist. Okay, so before I move on to the medal, did anybody have questions about the claims that are available?
You just check online, see if there's.
Jenna, are there questions online? Or anything?
Not for that, just for that one I just sent to you.
Yeah,
For-
yeah, we'll send that, yeah.
But not for you.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. So the last little bit of info I have for you, so I'm sure at least the CAF members have seen the Camp for Jen that came out. So we are lucky enough to be counting towards this new medal, which is the non-Article 5 NATO Vigilance Medal. So what it requires of us is 30 days continuous NATO service. So once we actually chop into NATO, we start counting days towards that. This computer's about to die. The service must be after February 2022, which of course this is. Unfortunately, this does mean that you will no longer count time towards SSM NATO. With the exception of ramp. So I think there's a few people that are close to getting SSM NATO. The ship's office is already tracking you. And they'll see if you can get that with a few days on ramp.
The transit days.
We'll verify that. Any questions for me?
I think my laptop battery is dying, so I think but I think the next slide is user. Yeah, the other one. Okay.
It doesn't want to go to a next slide, but.
Okay,
I
we'll
think
go
let's go back.
back in time.
Yeah. Cause you know, it can't be easy.
I can't control it at all, actually. Okay, we've got just a small technical difficulty here. Can you go back to that other slide?
Cause we're
We're going forward.
going forward back.
Oh, you
Yeah.
got it. Okay,
Nope,
great.
which one?
Keep going, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the one right after us, right?
Yeah. Okay, so now we're in a real time crunch because
Right here,
we
right,
don't
sir?
have a charger here, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
You went to get.
I'm just gonna talk about a couple things here quickly. The fleet chief already mentioned it and you know, it's come up a few times here, but the MCON, the missions control. So I should have maybe mentioned in that diagram or the picture I had up about the patrol box. You know, we're going to be crossing the Atlantic and then going on patrol in the Mediterranean. Generally, patrols will be about 2 weeks long, where we'll go from one port to another, and we'll either be on exercise or we'll be on patrol, doing some of those deterrence measures we've been talking about. And while we're doing that, depending on what area we're in, how close to shore we are, how close we are to other contacts and things like that, we may have to turn some of these things off. And there'll be two, I guess, times that you'll see during the exercises as well. So one of the things we're trying to do is build up a bit of that resiliency and get ourselves prepared for what happens when we're in a comms blackout. So while we're on workups over the next 3 weeks, once we get underway for 3 weeks, it's going to be some periods of time where we will announce a very specific window when we're turning off the Wi-Fi and when we're gonna have the ship's company go into airplane mode, okay? And then we're gonna have windows where we're gonna do that as well. And so some of the things you can do to help make sure you're prepared for that is that, you know, you have a good plan of what's gonna be coming up. We're gonna make sure that we pass on so that everyone knows when these windows are and that they can pass that on. But some of the preps as well, you need to consider doing if you haven't already, and you can do this as well, talking through SysUp, is making sure that you have automated payments. So if Wi-Fi goes down, you don't have a situation where you can't pay your mortgage because you couldn't get onto your banking website, or your car loan is coming up due and you can't do anything about that because you don't have your payment set up. So think about some of those kinds of things where what's going to happen if we don't have internet. And then there will also be times where we have to turn it off for operational reasons. You know, perhaps you more normally text or you use Messenger or whatever. I would say, like, in the hierarchy of things, those are the least likely to get through. And the next would be sort of civilian email. And then the most likely to be able to get through would be the regular ShipLAN, DWAN forces email. So if you're not getting a response on one of the sort of things that we might be seeing on the Morale Wi-Fi, I would encourage people to use the regular ShipLAN email, because that might not be down because it's a military trusted satellite. The OPSOs here would probably normally talk to this for me, but in the interest of making sure we get through before the battery dies, operational security. Okay, so there are going to be some clear policies laid out for your sailor or your air personnel, because we're deploying with the internet, that indicate when you can and cannot talk about the ports that we're going to. Okay, the movements of the ship are confidential, and so, you know, posting about what port we're going to. You know, I have a feeling that most of you are going to know from your deployed personnel where our general scheme of maneuver is and what we're doing. Okay, and that's good. I want you to know where we are, but you cannot post that on your Facebook, on your Twitter or X account or things like that. Okay, because knowing where we are can put us into some forms of jeopardy and things like that, right? So you'll see lots of posts after we leave a port. Okay, I'm sure Warship Cam will find us as soon as we come into the port, so there probably won't be any surprises there. Sometimes, and a lot of the time, you'll see us on AIS. You follow us on Ship Tracker and watch where the ship is going. If we turn that off, or if it looks like we're in a weird place, that's okay. It's going to happen. Expect that. Okay, same with the Wi-Fi, same with all the reasons like we've talked about already, where people are on different shifts, we're in different time zones. Okay, so these kinds of things are going to happen. So whenever you can, leave enough buffer time to manage things, and then know where the resources are between MFRC, Fleet Chief, in order to get that information flowing back. Okay, SysUp Financial, if you haven't already chatted with them, they're a very good resource to help make sure that some of those deployment preps are done. There's still time in the calendar. You can do phone calls, things like that, and they'll help you do any kind of preps that will make sure you're ready to go. We've talked about morale mail, and then in the next briefing, so once we get into theater, the command team will sit down and we'll hold a briefing for anyone who wants to tune in with the families, explain where we're at, give an update on where we're going, and provide that opportunity to answer any questions and make sure that everybody's, you know, had a smooth transition. Because I think as we go through some of the phases of the deployment here, you know, there's going to be excitement and anticipation about getting underway, and then there's going to be the actual deployment, you know, and then there's going to be the changing of routines, start missing your deployed member, and then you've got to start thinking about return preps, the return, and then the reintegration, right? So it's going to be quite the roller coaster and experience, and we want to make sure that everyone's well supported. Okay. Yeah, benefits, especially with the fourth generation sailors, or people who are not sailing with us for the entire time. Make sure you clearly understand your benefits before you go and make any commitments. Make sure you have a signed and approved leave pass, and that you have everything sorted out before you book things that are not refundable. I think that's about all for me. So yeah, thank you to all the briefers. I see the postal clerks have left, but yeah, outstanding brief from everyone. Thank you very much. Cox, and I'm sure I've missed a couple of things, so I'd like to turn it over to you, and then, oh, we've got a question. Okay, excellent.
This is during one of our port visits. Is there a way to make those arrangements without breaking offset?
Yes, we will help figure out a way to make that possible. Perfect. Okay, if there's no other questions, Coxon, please.
All right, as you know, during the deployment, I'm a homeowner, most of us are. I have a plan. Every time I go, Murphy's Law, something will break, okay? I have the plumber's number, I have the electrician number. Talk to your friends, your family, make sure that there's a plan in place in case something breaks. Because by experience, every time I go, something breaks. And it's the same for most people on ship. So make sure that your family have all the available numbers. If you don't, I'm sure the MFRC can provide some guidance to provide the assistance you need in order to get your house in order, okay? We're going on a trip. We're doing the business. We are ready to go. And we're gonna have fun. But we have to keep the family safe at the same time. We are their support as much as they are our, okay? That's all I got.
Okay, well, thanks very much for your attention. Hopefully this brief was useful. We've recorded it so we can share that as well for anybody who missed it. And if you do come up with any more questions, then please feel free. I know we've still got some time before we deploy. So, you know, and any of your wingers who maybe weren't here, pass on some of these lessons and make sure that you're set up for success. And of course, Coxon and I are always available to answer any questions. Okay, is there any other questions online? Perfect. Thank you, everyone. I don't know how to mute it or.
Me neither. It's all right. All good.
Go back to the one that.